So the staircase has arrived here at the big build. This is an epic moment for me really, because I love putting new stuff back into the buildings. It's a really nice sort of place to get to, if you like, because everything you do now going forward is all new work. So second fixing, staircasing and everything else. So today we're going to get this staircase fitted. It's all oak. It's going to be absolutely fantastic. And I think this is the first staircase that Ed's fitted to. So here is the staircase for the big build, and when it looks like this you think, right, it's not that much, but actually there's all the components that I need. Some of the strings are pre-assembled because they can be. There's the bottom string here, so we've got some nice feature steps and a Newel. Then we've got the Newels that will connect to everything else. We've got the top flight which comes away from the quarter landings, and then in the other boxes there we've got the other strings and quarter landings. The building's lovely and dry. There's no moisture. We've got no issues with plaster drying out. All that's done because that's really important. So we're going to get this in there now. We'll get ourselves set up and we'll start to put this in. But a couple of housekeeping rules. Always make sure you've got really nice clean hands all the way through the build, because this is oak. It's going to be finished on site. And what you don't want to do is get it grubby and sand a bit off, because if you don't sand all of it, you'll notice the bits that you've sanded off. So the name of the game is make sure you're nice and clean and tidy, and you'll have no problems at all. Just like so many jobs, fitting a staircase means being organised, making sure you've got everything that you need, and the site is in a good condition to take the staircase. So I mentioned earlier about moisture. We've got hardly any moisture in here. I monitor this building with a moisture meter. It sends me the relative humidity, so I know that we're in good shape to put in a piece of joinery such as this, which is purpose made. It's in oak and it's not finished. We'll be finishing it on site. So the stairs are going here. The foot of the stairs starts here in the room. It travels up to a quarter landing. Then we've got one step, another landing, and then it travels all the way up to the landing upstairs, the main landing upstairs, and it encompasses a cupboard underneath. We've got a series of Newel posts. I've got a Newel post which travels all the way down to the floor here, which will enable us to build a door on this side to access the underneath of the cupboard, the underfloor heating, etc. Some of the tools I'm going to use are drills, screwdrivers, a laser level for checking datums, maybe some clamps to pull up some of the joints. We've got a square for setting out as and where we need to, obviously spirit levels, a hammer, a soft face hammer or mallet, or if you haven't got that you can use a block and a normal hammer. This is where you might have to tap a mortise into a Newel, for example, and a handsaw. I've got a small kettle here to put a little bit of my glue in. We use the end of the glue to actually apply it to the tenons, for example. Then we brush it all around, make sure it's well coated. And where we've got other bits and pieces, we'll put the glue in a kettle and we'll use a brush to apply the glue directly to the member, if you like. Now I've got a glue here which has got a longer assembly time. So what that means is when you put all the glue around those big tenons to go into the mortises on the Newel posts, you're not worrying too much about, oh, it's not going back together, or, you know, I've only got a few seconds, you've got to get the dowels out, you've got to get it true, and sometimes you really need some time. So I recommend using a glue which gives you a bit of time. So they're the bits and pieces I'm going to need. I've got all of my components here, all wrapped up. We're going to get them unwrapped. We're going to put them into a sort of a procedure, if you like, the bits we're going to use first. Now, generally speaking, we start from the top and we work our way down. Indeed, that's the case with a lot of winder staircases. We also make sure that the drawing and the manufacturer is right before you even say, yes, go ahead and manufacture it. You sign this off, so it's up to you to make sure it's right. So we've got a finished floor to finished floor. We've got our goings, and that's all basically that we need to know. So we're going to get on now, get the components out of the wrappings, and start assembling it. one thing I always like to do is check all the components, make sure everything's here, and I'm just putting the bottom of the stairs together out of the way as a dry run. A dry run basically means that I'm just going to position all the components, the newel posts, the strings, the loose steps, so the ball nose and the double curtail, and also these landing elements, just to make sure we've got everything we need. Once we know we've got everything we need, we're going to start setting the stairs out. I'm going to show you that now, just exactly what that means. And when I say start from the top, which is where I prefer to start, I'll show you just exactly what that means. So for me, the very first job will be taking the newel post that actually makes its way from the floor in our case all the way up to the landing, and the wall string. So all of these top elements, we'll get those set out. Now, obviously I've worked this out and I've been pretty critical about the measuring and the setting out, and working in conjunction with the stair manufacturer, with their online designer, and then speaking on the phone to them, we're able to fine tune it to exactly our needs. So I know for a fact that my riser is going to make contact, or the back of my riser is going to make contact with here, and the nosing is also going to be in the right position as it sits over the top of this joist construction over there. I'm therefore going to send a laser onto the wall. I've got a measurement which is basically the bottom or the landing. That enables me to then make sure I've got the correct amount of space. So that's my measurement. I put my laser onto that. That's 875. That's basically the construction of the landing. And then from this line, this is effectively, when this newel is positioned here, the top string travels up and sits over there, or in between the next newel, which is here. So I know for a fact that I need a certain distance between this edge of the newel and here, and I've got 1100 dead. Now the actual amount I need is 1090, so I've got 10 millimeters of airspace, which is ample. So the whole rationale between working from the top down is we'll hang that in on these newel posts, then we'll construct this bit of landing here, so that section. We've got a newel post on this corner which actually gets rebaited round, which is a really nice detail, something that the guys and I at Stairbox made sure that the stair newel came in that position. So this is the beauty of being able to design something online, talk to them and stretch and adjust, keeping it within the regulations of course, to suit your actual application. And I think that's really an amazing thing to do. So that newel gets housed around there, and then it's a very simple job. If I just pan round and show you on the other end of the room where the other staircase is. So there's the top section, and there is where I'm making up the other bit dry. So from having this here, I've got all the references, all the measurements I need. This string here is the one that goes up where I've just sort of explained. I've got to do no work on this part of the string. I've got to do minimal work on that part of the string. I've just got to take a little bit out for my flooring, and pretty much that's ready to be offered in position. So we're going to start the actual install now. We've got all the bits and pieces we need. I've checked everything. I've done a dry assembly here in the background. It basically means I've just put everything together dry. I use these undersized threaded rod dowels. So I make these up out of threaded rod like a pencil effectively, just to sort of hold everything together while it all sits here. Everything's in order, everything's going to fit nicely. The only work we've got to do initially is make a tiny adjustment to this grounds here, which we put in anticipation for the stairs. We knew where the stairs were starting, where the stairs was finishing. We needed to leave the ceiling to come into the stair void effectively, so when we make the ceiling up here, it all matches up. We've also got to shorten this batten, shorten this angle bead here for that newel. Then we need to put the housing in the newel, which is effectively taking out where it will sit over this construction here. A very simple job. So this is one of the only cuts we need to do on the stairs. This is often what you have to do on the stairs. If it fits properly, that's what you should do. You relieve here, back to the back of the riser, which is effectively this grounds here. That slots the newel in position. Then it's a matter of putting the string up against the wall and so on and so forth. So another little tip, when I'm fitting a staircase, I use the measure quite a lot, which means that I rarely use the spirit level. I use a measure. I know where my datum is. So this line here on the laser is nice and level. So I can go around and check if there's any high spots on the floor, where the Newels will sit. That's all I really need to know. Because I'm starting from there and I'm traveling down, there's a set rise. In our case, it's 198 millimeters, okay? And every rise is equal. So when I get this string and hook it over there, I'll need to put some temporary support under it. Now I can do one of two things. I can work out exactly where that is by multiplying the number of rises that there are. So I can count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 rises, which is effectively from there to the top of the tread. They're 198, I'll round that up to 200, 6 2s are 12, and then I'll take off 12 millimeters. So that'll be 1188 mil. Then I just add that little bit on there, and that gives me a day to measure that down from here, where we're sitting on, put a level line across, and then I can attach a batten there, and that will sit on it. So then I'll just sit it on the batten there, it's nice and safe and secure, and slot the Newel post that holds it here. So that's pretty straightforward. So all I have to do, cut out here for where we hook over the landing, pop a temporary batten on here or a support leg, anything you want if you don't want to necessarily drill somewhere unnecessarily. And that's it. We can pop that bit of stairs in and then start working away with the rest of our staircase. So this is the cutout that sits over our landing, effectively. So the mortise comes in this side of the string. This is the riser. That's our timber grounds up there. And that's our trimmer that it sits over. And then the plasterboard will cover that gap. So that's basically it. So you just take out that block there. Lots of people put lots of cuts through and smash it out with a chisel. But it makes a heck of a lot of mess when you can actually just do it with a simple circular saw, carefully, bit of practice, and that's it. So the Newel's ready to be slotted in position, and what we're actually doing is building the floor up by the thickness of the finished floor. So therefore, when all the floors go down, up and down, the stairs is in exactly the right position. This is an offcut of the finished floor we're using. I've positioned this, I've lasered down where the Newel post is going to go. You can just see these two references on the ground. So I actually had a laser. You can do it with a spirit level. You can indeed just stand it up and not go to this trouble. But I'm just lasering this down from where it finishes effectively onto the floor. Put a mark. Then I can put my packing exactly where I know it's going to go. So there we have it. So I just sit my Newel. I'll get the Newel. I'll bring it over, sit it on and slot it in. So here's the Newel. Remember to have clean hands because you don't want to have to spend ages sanding stuff down, cleaning things up. It's just always a pain. It's just more work for everyone. And I mentioned it before, but moisture levels. we're really good here. We've got no excess moisture. I'm monitoring it on a daily basis. Right, so I'm just going to stand this on the bottom, roughly where it goes, and then we're going to slot it in. So that's effectively how the Newel slots in. You can see where I let the plasterboard hang over so we could meet, when we come up with our plasterboard underneath, it will meet that, so there's no making good to do. And that's pretty much it then. So we're ready now to put on a batten here to take the next bit of the string, or indeed just have a simple couple of legs on the bottom, and we'll ease that section in there and get that one fixed. So the Newel's hooked over, and this is our finished floor effectively. So that's how we've allowed it. We're sitting on exactly the same downstairs, and that will be blended into the nosing. So we're going to get this section in now, which is basically, this is the tenon that goes into the top Newel post that we've put in. This section sits over the flooring. I'm going to make a slight adjustment because at the moment my flooring upstairs comes all the way over here. So I just need to ease this out as well in this, exactly the same position. So I'm going to carry that on, take that out first, and then that's ready. So then we want a batten on the wall down below to sit the bottom of the string on here. We'll position that. Then we'll get this Newel post pushed in dry, and then we'll be able to have the whole staircase able to move in and out and in and out. And the reason why I want to do that is because I want to get the top riser and the nosing fixed on absolutely perfectly, and then slide the staircase back. That's it, I'll come round. Now if we just take it in here, carefully lift it up now, against the wall, push up in the air, till yours hooks over. Alright, that's it, now hold it there for a minute. So it's quite secure, so just come here, put your finger underneath that, that's all you need to do. Yeah? And I'm just going to plumb this into position at the bottom, so the mortise lines up. See, at the moment it's a bit skewed, yeah? But then it will just get to a point where it will want to come in. See, like that? So we're now somewhere near it. I'm going to get one of my pins just to hold that mortise. Okay. So now just put your pressure through it evenly. Just gently slide it back a bit, that's it. Tiny bit more. And now just wiggle and lift and slide. That's it, keep doing that. Keep it good. Bit more. Oh, that's good, keep going, Ed. All right, hold it there. I'm just going to one of my temporary pins in to the mortise. Well, that's got it for a minute. Now I'm just going to slot that Newel over.
Yeah.
This is where you're going to get trapped. Keep your hand to it, that's it. There we go. I'm just going to ease that in like that for a minute. Right, so just for reference, let's take a 600mm level across the tread that way.
Yeah.
Stick that on there that way. See if we want to pack up the Newel at all.
Yeah, the Newel
goes up the floor thickness, yeah?
Yeah.
So now we put that square the same as that underneath that Newel. I'll give it a little tweak. Ready? Right?
Yeah.
Then we just give that a little line up now.
Beautiful.
Yeah, so you can see all that joint's closed up there.
Yeah.
This one just needs tweaking in. And it goes against the wall nice as well.
Yeah, okay.
So now, we know this is all going to go here. we're going to just get this together and held. Then what we'll do is put another pin through here, ease it forward and build the top of the stair. Get the riser in, get the nosing in, glue it all. Because we can't actually get that in any other position than here, but because they're on these Newels, we can just keep moving it backwards and forwards. And then we'll add that little short piece of string, which is going to go in here next. That's going to govern where it lands. You can see that we've got enough space to just ease back off the nose in as well, which is absolutely perfect. And then we start coming this way. So in the meantime, we're going to make up the top, so that we need nose in and a riser. Measure the nose in across between the string rebates or housings and that other side. Cut that to length.
Yep. 775.
So we're in a good shape now to get this first bit of the stairs all fixed back and glued together. So what we have to do is we need to glue the nosing in and we need to put in the top riser at the top. Now you can't really do this and put the big Newel on before and then lift it all in. It's going to be pretty tricky. If you've only got a short Newel, which only comes to there, which is quite often the case, then what you could do is effectively make the top up with the Newel post on and the riser and the nosing, get it all attached, because the riser needs to screw through into the back of the tread. And at the moment, I haven't got access to that unless I move my stair forward. Now, what I can do here is we've built this temporary little frame here, which enables us to pretty much put this Newel in. We could draw dowel this one. Now, draw doweling is a traditional joint. So this is a mortise and a tenon joint. So this the tenon's on the end of the string, the mortise is in here. There's also a series of holes which line up, but what they do is they're slightly offset. So when we bang in our dowels, it pulls it all together. Now we don't go banging in these dowels without penciling the end, but not too much, because they penetrate through, and the idea is they'll meet into the other side of the Newel, okay? But they don't go all the way through. You don't want to be bashing them all the way through and breaking out the timber on the other side. So when I say penciling, working with your knife away from the body, you just hold that nice and secure, and using my thumb, I'm just literally going to just take off. It's about 6 millimeters, about 1/4 of an inch back, and I'm just taking enough off to pencil the end. And all that will do is it will enable it to locate with the hole in the tenon that's offset, okay, without smashing through it. Because if you leave them square, as you knock them through, and I've seen it done before too many times, as you knock them through, if you're leaving it square like that, it will actually, if the joint, like here, you can see that this has just been slotted in dry. So these shoulders should be nice and tight there. Because of the nature of the shape, it's fairly difficult to get a clamp on here without marking all the strings. But what you can do is make sure that you just ease the material together like that, give it a little tap. Now we're fairly parallel, but we're still not close enough to rely on the draw dowel. I mean, I can just about see the hole there, so we need to be a little bit closer as well. And we've got to get it all glued up as well. So we'll probably get this one glued in with the dowels, but then we'll ease the whole staircase forward on this one. We'll push apart the mortise and tenon, get all that glued up, put the, I'll get it for you, put the nosing in here. This is the nosing, that's the bit that joins to the landing. We've got a special rebate here for it to accept a finished floor at the top. So we'll put that in conjunction with the riser. The riser's pre-drilled on the back to take the screws which go into the tread below. This is just a standard thing. There's screws that go into the tread below, and that keeps it all really super rigid and strong. And that's a big integral part of the strength of the staircase, because the riser provides the strength to the back of that tread. If you took those screws out, it would still work, but this would start flexing, okay? And that riser also then provides the strength for the step above, because it's like a super strong section, that, and all the glue blocks are doing is holding it all together to stop any movement between the tread and the riser, so here and here. It's not meant to be a super tight fit. It's just meant to go in nicely like this. Okay, you can see there's a little bit of airspace, which is absolutely fine, and the glue blocks actually hold it all together. Traditionally, years ago, these would be solid softwood, these risers, and so they would shrink. So the glue blocks would basically stay where they were. You'd never glue the softwood into the tread, the riser to the tread. You'd always allow for a little bit of shrinkage here, but the glue blocks would keep it all rigid. But as anyone who knows has got an old staircase made from softwood or hardwood, solid, unengineered, this is engineered, which means that this is a medium density fiberboard riser, so that's not going to shrink or expand unless it gets soaked in water. All right, so let's get on and do that. I'm going to glue this one up just to give you an example of how I do it. I'm using a brand of glue, it could be any brand of glue, but this particular one gives me a slightly longer assembly time. So I think it's quite important because most water-based glues or PVAs, as soon as you apply them to the material, which has been kiln dried and it's perfectly dry, it sucks straight home. And if you think about this joint, you know, it's designed to be a fairly tight fit. I'll just hang my damp rag out the way. Something that's really important. So what I'm saying is, as the Newel post comes over, there's lots of shoulders, there's lots of areas that are going to jar. They're going to want to be tight. It doesn't want to be slack and loose. So therefore, I'm going to put some glue inside the mortise. So when I push it on, it pushes in. Because if I put too much on the tenon, as I push it in, it's going to all splurge out the sides. Hence why we have a really nice damp rag as well, because you just want to clean it straight off. So we can just get some glue inside here. It's quite fluid, this glue. And then I've got a little brush. It's slightly damp. It's a very cost-effective brush, something that you can just find in like the decorators, suppliers. And I just think it just gives you that extra bit of speed you need to get the glue where you need it, okay? So you want to get both sides of that all around this little housing here. So I'll pop a bit more in there. It's like a glue pot now. A little bit around these housings. So when it all pushes together, it generally stays inside the joint here, all right? So that's well coated. Then I'm going to put a little bit on the tenon shoulders here. Not too much, but obviously there and here. It's no good putting it there because we don't know where it is. A little bit on there. And then for good measure, let's just give this a bit of glue as well. Because actually it can act a bit like a lubricant. It will actually help me with the joint as well. So there we go, a little bit on this side as well. And then we need to work on that. So the stairs is level and true. And when we put, I've got a kettle here, which I've just dropped that in. And every now and then you can pop a bit of water in, wash the brush out as well. So the idea is I know roughly where it's going to stand, and I'm going to get the joint lined up. Here we go. I've got the stairs propped on a level with a clamp on it, okay? So just got to make sure that's nice and secure, because what you don't want is it to move. There we go. So now the joint is going to slide together. Now we're going to use a rubber mallet and a little bit of pressure and ease it together until we can see that the shoulders here are nice and tight. We also want to be able to look through the drawdown and see that they line up, because the next job is to put the dowels in. The dowels have been penciled off, and we want to put a little bit of glue on the tip of that. There we go, let's just clean that glue bottle. So a little bit of glue on the tip of this, and then obviously some in the hole here. Get that in, give it a little twist. There we go. Now we want to tap that home. So a rubber mallet should do it as well. Now I can see the shoulders started to pull up. So that one's allocated. Let's get the bottom one to that point as well. A little bit of glue there. There we go. Give that a little twist. Give that a little knock home. That's when I can hear it going, connecting to the joint. It's pulled that shoulder up. Now we're going to probably have to use something which has got a little bit more strength to my hammer, but the idea of this is just tap. You know, don't go mad, because these have a tendency to split with the grain. So basically it's just a gentle blow. Now I'm through the joint, I'm right through the joint, I'm going into the other side. Now we'll take the top one to that point. You can see that the shoulder is absolutely beautiful. These shoulders here have been pulled up, so the 10 has been pulled together. I'll give that another little one. Then I'm listening for a kind of change in the tone of this dowel as it hits the other side, because it's not drilled right through. There, and the same on the bottom. There. So now, damp rag, obviously, just take any excess glue out the way. This is the time to do it. All of that excess glue out the way, because we want our finish to stick. Now I leave these now until they're all in. Sometimes, for example, because we've got another Newel fairly close, it's a good idea to clean them off and get them planed out the way. So now I'm just going to check all the rest of it. Everything looks really nice. I'm also going to unclamp my level here and just check that the stair is fairly plumb. So you can see from that the geometry everywhere is pretty good, because we're fairly plumb, and I haven't even bothered tapping it there. It wants to go like that. There we go. That's nice and true. So we'll also check the other way as well. And again, that's fairly nice too. So we know now the stairs is in good order. Right, okay. So the next thing is just to get the top assembled, glue this really nice long Newel up, and then we'll start coming all the way through, repeating the process. What Ed's doing at the moment, he's just putting a prop underneath the stair, because all we've done is slid the whole thing forward to enable us to get our nosing and top risers in. So Ed's got a leg. He's going to attach it to the underside of this piece of the stair here, attach a decent screw in there to make it, and then we'll just ease it further forward, put all those bits together, and the job is a good one. So that's my riser and nosing all fixed back nice now. So this is the awkward bit sometimes, because I've had cases before where I've actually had to try and wriggle them in from the other side and do, you know, a different fixing arrangement, but it's nice if it's connected traditionally to the stairs. So now all we need to do is slide the stair back, make sure it's all nice and true, and fill the bottom in. The next bit is actually a very speedy process. So the top part of the stairs is in, all the Newels are secured. We're just popping the landing together. This is the first landing. So we've put the wall strings in, and they have all the joinery obviously taken care of. This one is actually joined together and comes round into this Newel here. Now this Newel's interesting. See, we need to rebate it around the corner of the wall, if I pull back, to make sure it's all exactly right. Now that's the beauty of using this particular manufacturer, because I was really keen on making sure that my Newel fitted in this corner, allowing for a rebate to get it to fit. Now, one thing I'll say about building, it's crucial that when you're setting everything out, so when we set here at the big build out, we set everything as true as we can get it. So the stairwell, everything has to be nice and true, so it all fits in really nice and parallel. And then we've got no problem marking up a rebate. All we need to do is plumb this up, use a scribe block, and we can rebate it around the corner and get the mortise and tenon to push up as well. So there we have it. So it's going really nicely. We're taking our time, that's the name of the game, keeping our hands clean. We've got the wet rag here every time we're using a bit of glue in case it runs down. But there we go, there we have it. So we're going to rebate this post all the way around this corner. It's worked out lovely in the height. By the time we get our little Newel cap on there, it'll be a really nice feature there. So there we have it, there's the stairs. There's the other bit there, which is basically the dry fit of everything before it gets taken back apart and slotted in this position. How's it do it so accurately?
Atomised like a sprayer, yeah.
It's crazy, isn't it?
And then it goes back down to the
sure that the distance between these Newels here, the mortises, matches my tenons over there. Let's just do that between and then between this way. So the last string is ready to go in. We've got it all in dry, just like we've done everything else. Just go around dry, make sure everything fits. Because when these are manufactured, just like any joinery item, be it windows, doors, staircases, from varying materials, they're made in one sort of set of conditions, then they're delivered in another set of conditions. They arrive to a site which is equally another set of conditions. So it's really important that you actually try to get the stuff in as quickly as possible. You really don't want to sort of leave it laying around if it's damp or anything like that. And also, you know, we've got a sander nearby just to ease off the edge of the tenons, for example, because they're fantastically accurately made, but you only need a slightly different sort of atmospheric change in the material and it might just catch. And it's just the way timber is. So we just ease it off, we give it a nice leading edge. The joinery Stairbox do give it a little leading edge anyway, but I just give it a tiny bit more because they're nice and generous, these tenons, which enables us to sort of cramp it up and get it all back really nicely. So this is the last thing now. We're going to glue these mortises, we're going to pull them back and draw down them. So let's get on, glue that up, and we're nearly there. Now the risers are a really simple matter. They're already cut to length and there's a groove in the newel post side. So in this case, we've got 2 newel posts, so there's 2 grooves. And the idea is simply, we're going to push it all the way into one groove and slide it back. So the groove is twice the sort of width of the housing needed. If the housing's 12mm, one side's 24mm, say, so you can push it in and pull it back. So it's just getting all the glue in now. All of the stairs has gone in a treat. All of the joints, everything's worked perfectly. It's an absolute beauty. We've rebaited this newel around the plastered corner, and it was something I was particularly wanting to get exactly right. So we're going to put a little cupboard underneath on this side. We're also going to have a big cupboard on the other side here, which accesses the understairs, if you like, behind, between this newel and all of our underfloor heating controls. So I've just got the curtail to go in and the ball nose. Now I'm going to put the ball nose in and the newels, but I'm going to leave out the curtail. So the floor layer, when he comes, we can move it and he can actually lay his floor. It'll be a bit more straightforward for him. And then it's just screwed in the pre-drilled holes. The idea is you push it up as hard as you can so the tread above doesn't squeak. So there are certain things with staircases that you can sometimes snooker yourself. For example, if I put this newel on here and I try to put this tread in afterwards, it's not going to go unless I trim the bottom corner or the corner of this out, and you can do that, but I mean, ideally all of that wants to be in the housing, but you can actually get them in. It's just a little bit of juggling. So I'm going to put all the glue on, or in the mortises and everything, because I want to actually do it in one go. I'm pretty confident. So I will glue up this joint here, get a load of glue in there, give it a good brush round, get it on both sides of those shoulders there. That's great. Get it all over there, and I'll also put a bit in this housing. There we go. So what we need to do is rest that here, pop a bit in the other side, which is where the tread's going to be going, and the wedges and everything else. Here we go. Glue up that housing there. Pop a bit down here as well. Now this is the key. You need to get this stood roughly in position with a slight angle. And the idea is, so I'm going to set it here. And the idea is I'm just going to lift that into the housing and bring this around just to get it to where it needs to be. Now I know it's going to be good there. I'm going to pop a bit of glue in that housing as well now. Just down here. That's lovely, that is. And then I'm going to tweak that in to its housing. Okay, so it's in there. We're also in the housing on the other side. Then we need to rotate the newel until the tenon spigot is actually in line. Let me just come and have a look at that from above. Make sure this is all true. That's all true. And it's got a pop in there, that's what it is. By lining everything up, you can then start just knocking it together, and it all comes together, it just literally locks in. It's a treat. And as you bring the newel back onto that tenon, this ball nose tread is now being pulled round into its housing absolutely perfectly. It's come up really nice there. Obviously we attach that there, and then we just put the joint back to where it wants to be. Go and put your weight on the other end of that then, mate. That's it. And there we have a perfect setup there. Just check this is right, this end as well. Here, that's perfect. So we're all good to go now. We're good to get these dowels in here. Nice and gently. And put it all the way back into the housing there. That's it. Now we'll start by, we need to, as I say, put it up as tight as you can in the middle. I can't really put a hand under it as well. Really? Yeah. Good. Yeah. The one's into your, you're going to go, this one, you want to go put another one on the end of the tread here. Yeah. And that's the next one that goes in. Just pile it, don't countersink that one because it'll pull up slightly. Perfect. And the same on the other side in a minute. Yeah. Final part of the jigsaw is this curtail, or some people call it a double curtail thread. And all it simply does now is push back, lock in, glue. But we won't do that yet because we want the floor layers, because they're putting a floating floor around, to actually be able to mark it. So I'll leave it for them so they can actually mark it all up and it'll be a bit easier. So we'll leave this out there. We'll build a temporary one just out of some plywood for people to use. We're also going to line these treads with plywood and basically we'll cut those in and protect the stairs. I've had a really good day today putting in this staircase. It's one of those jobs that I always feel that you kind of know how long it's going to take based on ones you've done before. But most staircases are completely different to the previous one unless you're lucky enough to be doing the same style of house over and over and over again. So anyway, as I say, this is an engineered oak staircase from Stairbox. We've done really well today to get all these components in perfectly true, attached to the floor upstairs to allow for the finished floor, also sitting up to the thickness of the finished floor downstairs here. It's all ready to go. So if you like, I've done the first fix or the first part of the staircase, and the last job for me is to go around putting in the glue blocks on all the risers that I've fitted as we've put the different sections of staircase together. Now, it's a fairly straightforward job. You just put loads of glue on the back and you squash them and squash them. A vacuum is formed instantly with the glue and it's a super satisfying thing to do. So that's about it for this video on the staircase at the big build. We're going to be doing more video on the staircase at the big build. We've got the glass balustrades to go in. We've got the handrails to go in. We've also got a cupboard that we're forming under the stairs as well. So it's looking absolutely mint. There's some other little jobs to do. For example, let me get back here, cleaning off all of the dowels. And I think that's worth featuring in the next installment. So please check back to the channel soon. I'm Clevett. This is The Big Build. Thanks for joining me.